You know that feeling? You are just exhausted, completely and utterly bone-tired. Nothing really excites you anymore. And maybe, just maybe, you've even found yourself crying in the car before you have to walk into work. So, you gotta ask, is this just burnout or is it actually depression?
Okay, let's get right into this, because figuring this out is one of the most important things you can do for yourself. Seriously, one of these is a situational problem, something that's tied to your job. The other, that's a clinical condition that can touch every single part of your life.
And if you get that diagnosis wrong, you end up trying the wrong fixes, which, let's be honest, can leave you feeling even more stuck than before. So, today in this explainer, we're going to get it right. We are going to walk through 6 key differences and then do a super simple self-test to give you some real clarity.
Let's start with the absolute core distinction between these two, because this is the foundation for everything else we're about to talk about. It really all boils down to one question. Is this a work problem or is it a life problem? And check this out. These aren't just fuzzy feelings. These are official definitions. The World Health Organization, the WHO, they officially recognize burnout as a syndrome that comes from chronic, unmanaged stress at work. Depression, on the other hand, is defined in the DSM-5, that's kind of the Bible of psychiatry, as a clinical mood disorder. So you see, one is about your environment, the other is about what's going on inside you. I love this quote because it's so simple, but wow, is it powerful. Burnout is a really specific frustration, right? It's pointed at your job. You can still have a great weekend, enjoy your hobbies, love seeing your friends, but depression, that's global. It just sucks the color out of everything, making even the stuff you used to love feel totally pointless.
All right, so with that core idea in mind, work problem versus life problem, let's get into the 6 telltale signs. We're going to go through these one by one to really sharpen the focus here.
First up, context. Burnout is contained. It's walled off, usually tied to your job or maybe school or some other specific high-stress thing. And here's the key. If you change that environment, like you finally quit that toxic job, the symptoms usually lift. With depression, it's pervasive. It follows you everywhere. A 2-week vacation isn't going to fix it because the problem isn't the scenery, it's internal.
Okay, difference number 2 is all about the type of exhaustion you feel. And this phone analogy is just perfect. Burnout feels like your phone is at 1% battery. You are drained, for sure, but you're also kind of wired and anxious. You can't sleep, you're on edge. Depression? That's like the battery has been ripped out of the phone entirely. There is just nothing, no fuel. You could sleep for 12 hours and still wake up feeling completely empty.
Now think about this. Where are you pointing the finger? With burnout, your frustration is pointed outward. You're thinking, this job is impossible, or this whole system is broken. You blame the situation. With depression, that frustration turns inward. It becomes, I'm a failure. I'm worthless. It's this deep, personal sense of shame that feels like it applies to everything about you.
Let's talk about the path back. Burnout, and this is the good news, can often be turned around pretty quickly. A solid 2-week break where you actually disconnect, plus setting some real boundaries, that can make a huge difference. Depression, though, that's a longer journey. It usually needs sustained treatment over months, or even years, often with therapy and other support. A 2-week break just isn't going to cut it.
And what about how this stuff feels in your body? Well, that's different too. Burnout often shows up as classic stress responses. You get tension headaches, your stomach is a mess, you have that horrible Sunday scaries or Monday dread. But a huge red flag for depression is something called anhedonia. It's a clinical term, but it basically means the inability to feel pleasure. It's when you can't even enjoy your favorite food or a movie you love or time with people you care about. That's a whole different ballgame.
And finally, let's look at your general outlook. The defining emotion of burnout? It's usually cynicism and anger. It's that this company is trash feeling. And in a weird way, that anger is a protective mechanism. It's a sign you still have some fight left in you. The hallmark of depression, though, is hopelessness and apathy. It's not, this is trash, it's nothing even matters. There's no energy left for anger. There's just a void.
Okay, so we've got those 6 big differences down. Now let's make this really practical for you. Right now, we're going to do a super quick 60-second self-test that you can use as a little check-in for yourself.
All right, question number 1. Just think for a second, where do you feel these symptoms the most? Is that feeling of dread and total exhaustion mostly tied to your work or school? That's A. Or does it kind of follow you home, into your weekends, into everything you try to do? That would be B. Question 2 is a little thought experiment.
Let's say you win the lottery tomorrow. Boom, 10 million bucks. Is your first thought, yes, I am quitting my job, and you get this huge wave of relief, this feeling that things would actually get better? That's A. Or do you look at that $10 million and just think, it wouldn't matter. I'd still feel this empty inside. That's B.
And the last question, number 3, is about your core emotion. If you really get quiet and check in with yourself, what's the main flavor of what you're feeling? Is it that agitated anger, that frustration, a real cynicism about your situation? That's A. Or is it more of a flat, numb, hopeless feeling, a sense that nothing is ever going to change? That's B.
So how'd you do? If you answered mostly A's, that's pointing in the direction of burnout. If you answered mostly B's, well, that suggests depression might be a better description. And hey, what if you had a mix of A and B? That is super common, and it's a really clear sign that it's time to talk to a professional to help you untangle it all.
Because look, the whole point of this isn't just to slap a label on it. The point is to know what to do next. So let's move on to the path forward and figure out your first, real, actionable step. If your answers pointed toward burnout, the solution is usually about your situation and your boundaries. You can start small. Set a micro boundary, like no work email after 7 p.m., period. Try something called job crafting. Is there one tiny task you absolutely hate that you could delegate or automate? And if you can swing it, a true, totally disconnected break can be a game changer.
Now, if your answers looked more like depression, the first step is different, and honestly, it's more urgent. This isn't something you can fix with just boundaries. The most important thing you can do is reach out for professional help. Call a therapist today. Use online directories to find someone. And remember, helplines are available 24/7 for immediate support.
In the US and Canada, you can dial or text 988 to reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It's free, it's confidential, and it's always, always available. Please don't hesitate to use this resource if you need to talk to someone right now.
And this is so important to remember. These two things are not mutually exclusive. It is very possible to have both burnout and depression at the same time. In fact, chronic burnout can often lead to depression. So the goal here isn't to get a perfect self-diagnosis. It's about giving you a starting point so you can take the right kind of action.
So, I'll leave you with this question. Now that you have a little bit more clarity, what is the first small step you are going to take for yourself, not tomorrow, today? Because that first step, that's everything.